Hi, this is another video on the go-kart. I have a little work that I have done recently regarding a new axle and some additional framework that I did. Just wanted to update the series and share the progress with people. It's December 27th today, 2020. Hope everybody had a great Christmas. So, since the last video I made a series of videos about my opinion of the clutch here and how that installs. And since then, like I say, I did get some parts to update my axle. When I did the clutch videos, it had this axle in it, and this is a homemade go-kart. It was built when I bought it. I did add some frame structure to it to kind of beef it up and get it ready for just kind of my flavor of modifications. But anyway, it did have this axle when I bought it, and this was a 3/4 shaft axle. It's a live axle setup, and they really, you can tell they used some of the hardware that they had, if that makes sense. And I commend them for doing that, right? That's what it's all about sometimes, using the stuff you got. But one thing I noticed is when I started throttling the cart while it was up here on the stand, is that when I started throttling it up and the tires started spinning, man, they just started going absolutely nuts. I don't know if the axle was bent, or perhaps the hubs were welded on, maybe crooked. What they did, it's kind of funny, this kills me, but what they did, see, they clearly had at least 3 different sprockets, right? Here's one that they actually used as a sprocket. Here's another one, and then there's another one. And they drilled them, put some like automotive grade lug studs through those holes, and then just used lug nuts. And that's a 4-on-4 bolt pattern, which is what most of these go-kart wheels are, or golf cart wheels. And so, like I say, it's funny that they did this, but it worked. It did work, but it vibrated like hell. So anyway, I ended up going ahead and buying me a new axle. It's a 1-inch axle. This one's keyed the full length. And I ended up getting this axle from BMI Karts because I needed this axle to be a specific width. See, it needed it to be a little bit wider than what I was finding, like at Go Power Sports. That's usually where I buy some stuff. Go Power Sports. They always treat me really good. But I couldn't find a long enough axle that I needed through them. So I found this company called BMI. B as in boy, M as in Mary, I as in Indian. BMI Karts, and they had like a option to pick a custom length axle, and so that's what I did. So that's who I got this from. Anyway, got me the axle, got a brake disc, got a sprocket hub, got a sprocket, and then got a whole bunch of locking collars. In addition to, get this wheel off here. In addition to couple of wheel hubs there, and of course the wheels and tires I had. So as well as with this whole order of axle components, I got a couple of bearing supports. Got the 3-hole flanges there with the welded plate that I got all welded up today. And excuse the mess here, please. I'm kind of fighting for space out in this garage here. So please excuse the mess I got going on. However, I did get these welded up today, and I'm excited about that. I'm kind of thinking about a whole lot of different directions to go with this cart. So first, the first thing that comes to mind as far as how I can make the ride of the cart better is I'm actually thinking about ideas for suspension. And so the first thing that comes to mind, and I actually did some work today to accommodate this thought, was this back area. I don't know if I can zoom in or zoom out, but this back of the frame area that the engine sets on, it's just kind of a rectangular shaped frame structure that my axle supports are welded to. Okay, all right, so I'm thinking about actually boxing this portion of the frame in front of this area, and then adding some like some steel sleeves and bolts that would go through it, and then simply cutting these right here free of the front portion of the frame, so that way this back area would be able to pivot. And then of course you can imagine the whole network of frame structure that would be necessary over top here to eventually come in with probably, I don't know, like some type of maybe motorcycle shock or something like that to get that suspension movement that I'd like to eventually have on this cart. So something I've been thinking about lately. These happen to be the bracketries that bolt to my seats. I got a couple of seats from a guy on the local marketplace, and they're out of a John Deere Gator that he was parting out, and they're really nice. They appear to be like a black leather. I don't know if they're real leather, but they look really nice, and they're really soft. They should have a really nice ride to them. Now, I didn't bring this up on my initial videos, but I did kind of touch on it at the beginning of this video about how this cart was built before I picked it up. It was somebody had built this, and I'm just kind of like adding to it. And one thing that was pretty clear right up front was that this frontal area, specifically the spindles, the tires and wheels, and the steering has got some modification done to it to make it function, but these are going to be riding lawnmower front spindles. You can see what someone did a whole lot of. They kind of, I don't know, you could definitely see they chopped the front portion of the riding lawnmower, and then they found some square tube to fit into it, and then they welded it, and then they found, even a different size tube to weld into that, which runs all the way over to the other side, and then you have the whole thing all over again, right? Little into bigger, into the bigger. And so, although they are configured with some grease fittings right here, this is going to be a problem for me, and I'll get to it soon enough. But these are not, I think these are just, and there's a grease fitting in there, but these are just a greased spindle. These do not have bearings, so that is absolutely something I'm going to have to change up. Easy enough. I'm not intimidated by buying some new go-kart hardware and getting all this, some nice spindles and some actual bearinged wheels and tires. I'll have to reconfigure my steering a little bit, but you can kind of see what I got going on and where this is eventually going to lead me. So I talked about having some suspension in the back, and undoubtedly, once I get to making these front wheels and tires correct with actual bearings, I'm gonna kind of consider some thoughts to putting some suspension on the front. So there's always plenty to do when you get into these little projects here. I watch a lot of YouTube and people who are go-kart oriented, mini bike oriented, and I really love watching those videos. I could drop some names, but I think anybody who's into go-karts